Welcome back to the Raising Rock podcast. I'm Elise and I am your host. Today we have Jocelyn Cooper on the show. She is the wife of our associate pastor at the Mission Church and has been a big part of my story as a mom and as a wife over the last few years. I have known her for a little over 5 years, and she has walked through some challenges in my motherhood journey and challenges in my marriage and has really just held my hand and mentored me through so much. So I'm so honored that she said yes to being on the show. The episode today went a little bit long, so we did break it up into 2 episodes. So you are tuning into episode 1 now, and we hope that you are blessed by this conversation. We cover a lot about raising kids with intentionality and purpose, teaching them patience and endurance. So you are in for a treat. With that, welcome to the show, Jocelyn. All right. Welcome to the Raising Rock podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're here.
Me too.
So a little bit, I'll let you really introduce yourself, but I'll kind of tee up for the audience why you're on. Jocelyn is our associate pastor's wife at church at the Mission, for those that don't know where we go. And she has been a huge mentor to me over the years. We've co-led you've been the leader of the Bible study and I've just helped.
But you're very much a co-leader.
Well, I don't know if I can put, I don't know if I should say that.
Huge support.
You've done the heavy lifting and I've just gotten to enjoy being mentored by you and spend time with you and prepare our studies every week together. And that has just been such a blessing. She's been a huge part of helping me navigate challenging times with the kids. She has seen it all with our family. And so she has just been truly such a blessing and huge part of our story as a family and my faith story, and just been a huge blessing. And so she's also very involved in leadership at the church and oversees the young adult ministry. And we often chat through some of the things that she sees in the young adult ministry. And I'm like, this is such a great topic for the podcast. Like, we have to get you on. So that is why she's here. But why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your family and just kind of give us the details of your life.
So I've been married for 15 years coming up this August, and we have 4 kiddos, 14, almost 15 this July. So you can do the math. We pretty much had babies immediately within marriage. We call them a practical honeymoon baby. And then back to back had now my other son is 13. I have a 11-year-old and a almost 10-year-old now. So 4 in 5 years, those early years of marriage were quite an adventure. The Lord has grown me significantly because of those early years of being thrown into a mama of multiples right away. And so now today, that's definitely a huge passion of mine also, is walking alongside mamas just like you in the throes of those early years, encouraging constantly to not give up and to keep going, and it is worth it. Now I do have 2, almost 3 teenagers and a high schooler coming up this fall, a high schooler, 2 junior hires, and then a 5th grader. So,
and you homeschool them?
Homeschool.
Yes.
Yep. And so it's been a joy to be able to learn alongside with them. I'm constantly having to tell them, hey, I'm figuring this out along with you. So be patient with me if I'm not feeling comfortable about you learning to drive right away.
Are we there?
We're almost there.
Oh.
He practices a little in the parking lot of an empty space in the mall at the Carlsbad Mall, and here and there out of state. So he feels very confident in his skills, which honestly I do too.
I love that. He feels very confident in his skills. My children feel very confident in their skills as well.
All the time.
They're so confident in their skills.
He tries to tell me all the time that he feels like, hey mom, it's okay if I can drive us to the grocery store if you want. Like, we're not there legally, so no. Yeah. I can't do that yet.
I am sure you probably could.
You probably could.
But we have to obey the law.
Yes. So I am and my husband are always having lots of talks about these next stages of life and the adjustments and changes. And us being involved in the young adults ministry has been super helpful in us preparing our children to grow up. So I've been serving alongside with my husband in young adults for almost 5 years now, and that has been such a blessing and so much fun. And it's definitely made an impact in the way that we have parented and shepherded our children in preparing for that pivotal stage of life. Young adults at the Mission Church is between the ages of 18 and 29. So there's a lot that goes on in that stage of life between school.
That's a wide age.
A wide gap.
Yeah, like I think of the difference of me emotionally.
Yes.
At 18 and 20, like completely different seasons.
Totally. And we have a very diverse group, I would say. Some very young, fresh high school graduates, all the way up to established, careered, even engaged, maybe even some early marrieds that are on our leadership team. So it's definitely a very diverse group, which is great because then there's someone for everyone to come and connect with. So, yeah.
And just to jump right into it, what are some of the things you see in the young adults ministry and space? Because you said it's been really helpful for raising kids. And so I think people are hearing that, well, you're ministering with 18 and 29-year-olds, but you're raising 10 to 14-year-olds. Why has that been helpful?
Yeah. So I will say that over the several years that we've been in this ministry, we've seen common themes that young adults naturally struggle with in those years. And even in the couple years that we've been in ministry, those struggles have even morphed and changed over the years, depending on the culture. I mean, obviously, COVID had a huge impact, and definitely different ages of the older young adults versus the new young adults fresh out of high school. But I would say being attentive to those themes that are kind of underlying struggles, either just character development or even communication skills. All these things help us to be like, oh, so are we being intentional to equip our children in these areas so that when they are young adults, they're properly equipped for a job interview and good communication skills, or to be preparing for dating in that world? How do we teach them to be aware of what to look for in the opposite sex and what they can be intentional about growing in themselves in this time of singleness? Definitely address singleness a lot in the young adult group, and how it's not just a time of waiting, but it's a time of intentionality. So, and one big one I will say that we've noticed more recently, so those are all, I would say, common themes that we've seen throughout the years. That doesn't change.
Talk to me really quick before we move into that. I would love to park for a second on this idea of singleness and the waiting and the intentionality, and how you've talked about that with your kids, because I think that's not something I've really thought about preparing my kids for, but that's so true. I mean, I pray for my children's spouse. Like, that's something I'm thinking about. You will want to be married, and I'm talking like you will want to be a husband someday. Start thinking about what your wife is going to be and all of that. I've never really thought about teaching them to be single. It's like I'm thinking more about teaching them what it's going to look like to have a spouse.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, and I think that a lot of families in the church have that same mentality, in the sense of, hey, let's be intentional that our boys are treating us mamas well, because that will carry on to their spouse someday. So we do teach our boys, hold the door open, pull out the chair,
stand up when a woman walks in the room,
greet them well and politely, take their trash or whatever. If you see a woman holding heavy things, jump in. Can I help you? Can I carry that for you? So there's just some nice practical application that I feel like the church does a good job at doing from a young age, and training our boys specifically to be good leaders and young men to women. But in the sense of singleness is, again, not that it's meant to just be this void of wandering helplessly, but that it's intentional. And in your singleness, you have time. I know a lot of young adults might argue that there's not enough time to do all the
so
things.
Much time.
You have so much time. when you get married and you have children, you're like, where did all the time go? Yeah. So it's a reminder of like,
I thought I was busy when I was single.
Exactly.
And now I'm married with kids and I'm like, no, I literally did nothing.
Yes. We all fall into that tendency also. So just trying to meet them where they are and recognizing you do have the time and you aren't torn between trying to pour into a relationship into someone else. You have the time to pursue that career. You have the time to pursue that passion. You have that time to serve the Lord with all your heart, with no distractions. And so what can you be doing and being intentional about talking to the Lord, seeking his word on what are my strengths, what are my giftings, and how am I utilizing this? We've taught our kids from a young age different ways on how they can serve in the church. And through their service in the church, they found where they really have found their giftings and what they're excited and passionate about. And so it's like, great, well then let's pursue this ministry first and foremost. And that's the beautiful thing about starting at a young age, is that there can be some flexibility in that, right? Hey, let's check out children's ministry. And then we find maybe children's ministry is not your thing, at least right now. So maybe let's try out the sound ministry, or let's try out serving the donuts, or so on and so forth. There's so many opportunities and ways, setting up chairs, taking the trash out. There's so many things that need to get done around the church that they just don't know. And so opening their eyes to that and being willing to jump in is so encouraging and motivating for them. So with that and being intentional in their time of singleness, they have the time to do that. Yeah. And how can they be intentional to serve the Lord, learn about him, and grow in their own character? That's the biggest one. Grow in their character so that they are as best as they could be prepared to steward another person in their life. So
that's so good. So you talked about your kids serving, and that is something that I have had on my heart to start incorporating serving into our family. So Benji's 5, Luke is 8. And I don't think either of them are ready for the responsibility of serving at church per se, but I think they are ready to serve more like in our home. And we've talked a little bit about maybe hosting a home group and exploring what that could look like for our family, having them walk alongside that with us. But for those that are listening, what age would you say that really starting to encourage your children to serve the Lord, not serve the Lord in the sense of accept Jesus into their heart, but actually like serving and volunteering and being involved in ministry? Like, where does that typically start?
Honestly, it can start at the age that Luke and Benji are at right now, and with little small tasks. But the most important thing I would say is that they see it as valuable, and it's a commitment that they commit to. So like, for instance, an example would be Awana. We have to quickly flip that sanctuary from completely empty of chairs for game time during Awana to quickly putting those chairs back so that we can start our young adults ministry right after.
Oh, wow.
And so taking that opportunity of, hey, we're going to stay a little bit later after Awana, and you guys are going to help set those chairs up, and you guys are going to use those muscles for God's kingdom work, and we're going to listen to whoever's in charge. How many chairs? You're going to count those chairs out, make sure they're in a straight line. And this provides, especially for boys, responsibility and then also commitment, because I found that after some time of doing these kinds of things, we had family in town or something, so
I don't want to go. I'm tired.
Well, the opposite is I would find that I'm like, we have family in town. We need to actually leave right away. And my kids are like, we can't. We have to set up the chairs. They're counting on us. And so for me to realize, this is super valuable. They've taken hold of that. They see that what they're doing matters. Of course, I'm going to continue to foster that. And so it's important for me to not feed this is like not that big of a deal. So we can come and we can go and we can do this as we please, as it works conveniently for us. But to actually, this is a commitment, and we are going to sacrifice a little bit of time to do this so that you can feel the importance of commitment. So that I would say is one thing. Even just taking out the trash, there's so many, every children's classroom has a tiny little trash can and it needs to be emptied out regularly. So talking to our children's director and saying, hey, can we be that person that takes out the little trash cans and throws it away in the big dump after service, whatever. And it's just finding those little tasks, talking to those ministry leaders of how can we build a sense of commitment for our kids to grab onto at a young age in the church body.
I love the idea of taking out the trash.
Yes.
That feels, we're there on Sundays.
Yeah.
They're both in children's ministry. Even if it starts with, hey, you're just in charge of taking out the trash when you leave your classroom. You need to tie up the bag.
Yep.
When I take you, we're going to tie up the bag and take it out.
Yep.
Like that is such a great place to start.
To start.
Okay, nobody else at the mission can take that one. I call dibs on that.
That's the one.
I call dibs.
After second service.
After second service.
You can take it out first service.
Perfect. Yeah, you can take first service or third service. We got second. No, I love that. That is such a great idea.
So needed.
It's so needed. And it takes away from somebody else having to do it.
Exactly.
And then that person who maybe has probably better giftings than taking out the trash can be investing their time
Exactly.
where it really would matter.
Totally.
So I love that idea.
Yeah.
Okay, great idea. So back to what you were saying. So you notice all these trends in young adults. What has been the most recent aha moment that's really impacted your parenting?
Yes. So this a perfect segue, I kept saying, seeing the importance of commitment for our kids to grab onto and how that encourages them so much to see that what they do matters and it's valuable in the church body. I feel this is something that we're noticing is a struggle for young adults to commit to see the benefits, I should say, to see the benefits and the fruit of committing to something long term. And sometimes it takes time to see those benefits, and it takes patience and endurance. And honestly, we are living in a world and a culture that has removed that from our day-to-day life. We have instant gratification the minute we get on our phones. We have instant gratification with the way that we order our food. We have instant gratification now with our shopping, with Amazon, or even just pick up.
Heaven forbid something take longer than 2 days to ship.
Exactly.
Or even Amazon now overnight.
Yes.
Like I can order something before bed and I wake up and it's on my doorstep.
And if it's not,
I'm annoyed.
Yes. How can this possibly be?
Yes. The other thing, it's so funny. Lisa, I won't say her last name, but you know Lisa.
Yeah.
And she often, I think she's even talked about it in our small group, about even how instant gratification with our water.
Yes.
We all walk around with like these giant Stanley cups.
Yes.
God forbid
We don't have our water with us.
God forbid we feel thirst.
Yes. For a moment.
For a moment. It's like the second we have a little twinge of thirst on our tongue, we're like, and if you don't bring it, like I joked one time, it's like my emotional security water bottle. Like if I forget my water bottle, I will go back home to get it because we just can't even feel the feeling of thirst for more than 10 seconds.
It's so true.
So you're so right. We live in this. And what do you think? Is it social media? Like, what do you think has caused? It's probably everything. It's Amazon, social media, DoorDash.
I mean, honestly, it has everything to do with technology, right? And the moment technology came in, we have emails. Now there's no more sending
mail
it through
letter.
the mail, snail mail, now we call it, and it's so long. And then that progressed into our phones to, I mean, and then it was
Wi-Fi.
endless.
I mean, we used to have to wait for like the dial. Remember like AOL that did, we used to have to wait. We don't have to wait for anything anymore. It's just instant.
Yeah. And so now we see that these generations that have been born into it. So you and I can remember that time when it's like, oh, we had to wait for the computer to just turn on, let alone, okay, now we're waiting and loading.
For the Wi-Fi to reboot.
Now I'm constantly like, why is it not sending? It has to send now. But these generations.
Or someone doesn't have an iPhone. They have the Galaxy and the mess. I can't tell if it's delivered. It's just like forever green.
Do they have it? Have they seen it?
Have they seen it? It doesn't show me as red. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so these generations have been born into this now. And so we're seeing that they never really had a taste of what it was like to wait patiently and have to endure some of just waiting.
Yeah.
Think way back to even, I mean, I know it's still around today, but naturally everybody was grown up on an agrarian society, and you had to plant your seeds and wait for it to grow, and that was your abundant food for the year or the season. And that took a lot of trust and patience and endurance, hard work to get to see that fruit. And so for us, that has been removed from our day-to-day. So being intentional, I feel like as a mom to early teens, preteens, even elementary age, how can we not miss those moments of growing those character traits, specifically in patience and endurance? That is so important.
And what's the fruit of that in young adults right now? Or maybe it's not fruit, because fruit would imply a good thing, but like what are you seeing this lack of patience and endurance? How is that manifesting in these young adults' character and in their lives?
Yes.
What are you seeing with that?
I feel you can see it in so many different aspects. I feel like when it comes to jobs, if I'm not getting that high paying job for minimal hours, or if there's something else that can offer me better, I'm going to jump right into that next job, or I'm going to keep searching even though I have a job that I actually really enjoy right now. And instead of seeing the importance and the benefit of creating an environment that in longevity and building rapport with your bosses and camaraderie with your peers in the long term. So we see that in the job front. I would say we see it in dating very much so. And okay, this is not fulfilling exactly what I want right now, or this person isn't perfect. Now, yes, we do need to be very wise and have high standards for the opposite sex when marriage is not something to take faintly. We need to be very serious about it. But there's unrealistic expectations that I would say it took you and I 20 years to develop this kind of character trait, or to produce these kinds of, our husbands to produce this kind of career. That's just not realistic for a young 20-year-old.
Yeah.
But there is potential for that. And so being wise on how do you look forward and see the vision in that in somebody, but not expect that right here, right now. So dating for sure. And then even spiritually, it's hard to teach or to grow in producing the fruits of the Spirit. And honestly, we learn and we are tested through difficulty and trial. And so when a new believer comes to the Lord and they are so frustrated with the things that they're still struggling with, or they expect to be at this point at this time, it's unrealistic. Again, of, hey, this takes time, and that's okay. Continue to read God's word. Don't give up. Keep pouring in. Endure through this time of growing, and it will be built, but don't expect that you have failed because you aren't there yet. I'm still struggling in areas that I need to grow, and the Lord is constantly teaching me in that I know will take time, but it's that patient endurance that allows for those fruits to be built. Virtue, how to be a Proverbs 31 woman is not overnight.
Yeah.
But these young women are, and then we should have that as a vision and a goal, but they get so distraught when they're not there yet. And it's like, honey, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And I probably won't be there until I'm in my 50s or 60s. That's a well-established woman, not an immediate brand new believer, or even in the very beginnings of being married. So just having unrealistic expectations on themselves, which then does carry on to feeling anxious, remorse for themselves, and discouragement. And so there's a lot of identity wrestling that comes back and forth from that, which again, I feel like if you have a proper understanding of this is going to take time and that's okay, you'll have more grace for yourself.
Yeah.
Which the Lord has so much grace for us, but we just somehow forget that for ourselves.
Yeah. I'm excited to explore how this relates specifically back to raising kids and some really tangible things that we can do with our kids now to prevent some of this. But I want to park on this idea of kind of unmet expectations, expecting us to be somewhere that we're not. And I think that's a trap that moms can even find themselves falling into. Like, I know even this week I've fallen into that with some challenges that we have with the kids and expecting. I've put in the work. I've had the conversations. We've prayed about it. It's not changing.
Yes.
But there's a reason you raise your kids for 18 years. Yes. I mean, far beyond that, if we're being honest. Yeah. But there's a reason that childhood is many, because it's not one conversation. It's not one prayer. It's sometimes not even 100 conversations and 100 prayers. It's thousands and thousands of planted seeds and waiting for a harvest.
Yes.
And I have to constantly remind myself of that, because I find myself falling into the need of instant gratification with improvements with the kids of, okay, we read our card. Why is this behavior? Like, we read our card on respect today. Why are you not being respectful to me?
Yes.
And so I think it's really easy as moms who know better, know that it takes time to produce a harvest.
Yes.
We're still falling into this belief system that if we're not seeing the fruit right away, we've failed.
Yep. Absolutely.
I struggle with that.
Yes.
And I know better.
Yes.
Yeah. And I still struggle.
Totally. Yeah. Romans 5:3 reminds us, this is Paul speaking, and he says, not only that, but we are also to glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulations produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. And this hope does not disappoint, because the love of God is poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit who is given to us. So if we go back to fast forward to the idea of this all gets produced in us through hardship. And that is the part that I feel like we avoid. Our society, our culture naturally avoid feeling the hard things because it's uncomfortable. Yeah. It's so uncomfortable.
The second we have a headache, we take an Advil. Exactly. We just never want to feel
And
discomfort.
We feel that emotion, we stuff it down. I don't want to feel it. Or we get uncomfortable. We have a little riff with somebody, a friend, even within the church maybe, and I don't like the way they said that, or ooh, that kind of offended me, or ooh, that hurt my feelings, but I'm not going to address it. I'm not going to talk about it, or I'm not going to address it with them, for instance, or so on and so forth. So many opportunities that I feel like we avoid feeling the hard things. And that's the biggest thing I feel like that we, as anyone, any believer in any stage of life, can take that opportunity to, instead of avoid those hard seasons in our life or those hard moments even, but to press in so that it can produce in us character, perseverance, and hope. An example I would say specifically that I see for even us as moms or parents with young kids is we even do that to our kids. We protect them so much that we don't want them to feel hard things. There's a difference between, this is something that we've always had as a mantra as a family, is the Coopers do hard things. So that could be...
So funny, we say that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even know you said that, and like Scott will say it a lot to the boys. Like the Orozcos do hard things.
Yes.
Orozco men
yes.
do hard things.
Yes. And I feel like it's a very common, because it's true. We recognize that we are to grow men and women who can endure through hardship. It would be foolish for us to think that our life is going to be easy or we're never going to experience hardship.
Frankly, life is harder more than it's easier.
Easy,
like we work all year really hard to enjoy our 2 weeks of vacation, or our husbands do, right? Like they work their tails off to go on vacation for 2 weeks of the year. Like life is more hard than it's not.
Totally. And sometimes those hard things produce emotions that we don't like feeling. So, I mean, at young ages, we like to go hiking. as a family. And I remember all the time, like, my legs are tired, or I can't keep going. Like, no, this is one very easy, simple example that we can endure hard things. I know that you're tired and it might hurt physically in the moment, but we're going to continue because in the end, it's worth it. We're going to see this mountaintop view, or we're going to get to that waterfall or whatever. So having that vision is so important. But I would say now, absolutely, even in the early years, but even more now in the preteen, teenage years, we're dealing with a lot more emotional things. The loss of a pet, I would say, what a perfect opportunity to press in and learn about loss and mourning, and how do we handle that as believers? How do we experience this feeling of sadness and loss while not letting it lead to depression and anxiety? And that's where we have a tendency as a culture, is we don't allow ourselves to feel these emotions that come up from these hard circumstances. We repress them, and then no wonder it produces in us harder emotions to tackle, like depression and anxiety. For instance, even anger. Okay, it's okay if you're angry at your brother for doing that. But now how do we handle we feel that emotion, it tells us a clue of what's going on in our heart, and then we are going to make sure that we handle this conflict wisely and biblically, rather than I have this anger, I'm not going to tell him, and now I'm going to hold bitterness and then hate in my heart, which is a whole nother dragon to tackle. That I feel like we have these older young adults, I would say even parents, that have not learned that it's okay to feel these feelings that are natural to the way God created us to process what is going on in the heart. But he set us up in his word with practical tools of how to move forward when we have lost something or someone that we love, or when we have a disagreement with a brother or sister in Christ, not to go and gossip to someone else, but to go directly to the source, and how to have confrontation, and how to do it biblically, and and so on and so forth. So there's so many ways that the Lord has taught us to press into those hard times and embrace those emotions that we feel in the moment, so that we can move forward in peace and hope. But we don't get there because we've repressed it, and then therefore it comes out in depression, anxiety, hatred, bitterness, slandering, gossiping, and it's just messy.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. I kind of forget where we were talking about moms. Yes. Oh, we were talking about young adults.
Yes.
And the instant gratification. So you shared something with me. I hope it's okay that I say this. If not, we'll edit it out. But I remember you sharing something with me. You were talking about planning a young adult getaway. You guys were doing like a camping trip or something. You were, I think, a little bit frustrated because you're like, we can't even plan a trip because nobody will commit because they are afraid that they might get a better offer. Yes. And FOMO kicks in. Yep. Like, talk to me about this, because you'll do a much better job of explaining this conversation we had.
Yeah, I feel like this, again, perfect in the sense of lack of commitment, always waiting for the better thing, opportunity, and FOMO is so real. And I mean, I'll be honest, I totally feel it in different aspects, but it's a reality, especially for these younger generations. I'm even seeing it with my kids of, oh, I got invited to this birthday party, but then I got invited to this birthday party, and it happens to be at the same time. Well, I would prefer to go to this one, but we made a commitment to this one first, and having to walk out the importance of what does commitment look like. So yeah, we as the young adult group have, over the 5 years, have always had 2 trips that we would plan, a summer trip and a winter trip. And we had no trouble. I mean, naturally, there was always
a cancellation here and there.
Yeah, or, hey, I need to wait to see if my finances are going to line up. So can, I not sign up immediately. It's going to be maybe only 2 weeks early or so, but that's going to help me to know whether this or whatever. Naturally, that makes sense. But now we've noticed over the years, it's become closer and closer to the date. And it's literally a gamble of whether or not we can count on, is anyone going to show up or not? Because it's only, we go over the weekend. It's literally the week before is when we're finding out if people are going to make it or not. This last winter trip that we had in January, that was exactly what happened. Thankfully, we did make the cutoff of what we were hoping and praying to meet, and we had a full group coming up with us to Big Bear. But this year, it wasn't getting to that point. Everybody was torn. And when we would pursue...
So it wasn't that people don't even want to come.
No.
It's not that it's a bad event and people just don't want to come.
Nope.
They want to go, but they won't commit because they are afraid they might get invited to something cooler or better, and they'd have to say no to that. So they're just not going to say yes to anything and make a game time decision.
Yes. Because if I went to each and every one, they were like, yes, I want to be there. I'm going to be there. I want to be there. I'm like, why aren't you signed up? Oh, well, I'm waiting. What are you waiting for? Like, if you want to be there, make that commitment.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And if something else does come up, it's okay to have to pick and choose and have priorities. But I think that comes back to the unrealistic expectations that instant gratification brings up, is that we have this unrealistic expectation that we're going to get everything all the time that we want. And that's not realistic. There's always going to be a conflict of interest in certain things. And there's always, or conflict in timelines, and being able to, again, prioritize, hey, I'm not going to be able to commit to these cool things, these fun events, because my job is priority one, or vice versa. I'm not going to commit to serving in the church because I might have to have some hangouts with some coworkers on these nights. So that's where it's coming back to the casting that vision for young adults, for our children, that, hey, commitment has blessing. When you can pursue that vision, you commit to what your plan is for the sake of that vision. And that might mean you have to say no to other things that come up, and that might mean enduring through some hard work, perseverance, but that vision then will be tangible and grasped. And there's no vision. There's a lack of vision, and there's this unrealistic expectation of, I can have everything all at once. I can have that great paying career job while only working 4 days a week on my own time and my own schedule. And it's like, how do you think that's possible?
It's a unicorn.
As you have just graduated college. That's unrealistic.
Well, I found that in HR. So I don't, I mean, the intro episode of this podcast talks a little bit about my background, but that was one of the company that I left before I was a stay-at-home mom. The primary age range that we employed was 21 to 34, I would say. There was definitely people that surpassed that were further along in their career, but it was a very young demographic. And the amount of people that I would have in my office upset that after their 1 year anniversary with the company, they weren't making $120,000 a year. They were I have a degree. I went to San Diego State, or I went to UCLA, or I did these things. The entitlement of they deserve, they work hard, they're doing a good job. It's like, yeah, I don't disagree with you. You are doing a great job, but you have no experience. You've not been in the workforce more than 6 months. There's no way you're going to make $120,000.
Yeah.
There's no way.
But that could be a vision.
Correct.
After,
let's make a plan. And that's
yes,
what it was. Let's
yes.
make a career development plan that's where you want to be.
Yep.
That's the number you want to
Yep.
make. Let's look at roles
Yes.
that make that much.
Yep.
And oh, wow, that role is 5 to 8 years of experience. How many do you have? 1 to 2. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get 4 to 5 more years under your belt. Let's put you in these intentional programs to help develop you. I mean, it was rampant and people would leave.
Yes.
People would leave a really good job, a really good environment and culture because they could get $8,000 more if they jumped.
Totally.
And it was so interesting. There was I come from, and granted I was in the workforce for only 20 years. It was only like that long ago. But you join a company and you stay and you earn promotions and you earn money that way. But they would literally job hop because every time they would hop jobs, they'd get $10,000. Come and you work here for a year, you move and you make $10,000. You work there for a year, you make $10,000 more because you would get more money quicker if you just bounced around. There was no loyalty, no loyalty.
Yes. And you miss like you said, the benefits of loyalty and commitment over those years. You're going to get more promotions. You'll get more paid time off. I mean, they're expecting to get so many PTO from just a 1 year's worth of working. And it's like, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
We need to know that you actually are committed to our company, that you see the benefits of longevity in this company.
Yeah.
And once that has been grasped, absolutely, we would love to pour more resources
Or
into
allow you to work remotely 2 days a week because we trust that you are able to get your work done or whatever that might look like. Yeah, I saw so much of that with that generation. And I mean, I get it. Right? Like I get the desire to want 4 weeks off a year. Who doesn't? But you have to earn that. You have to earn your stripes.
Yes. And it takes hard work.
Yeah.
And frankly, they don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
And that's because it hasn't been built in them that perseverance and endurance is a good thing. Pressing into those, it might be a little mundane, going through those normal day-to-day, everyday, same thing, same kind of day job. Yeah, but you have the ability to build longevity in that company. Your bosses have the opportunity to actually see your character within 5 years worth, which
somebody can't really get to know you in a year. No. Like you don't know someone,
especially in a work environment. It takes time to build that kind of trust. But once that trust is built, like I know so many companies, bosses, CEOs who are willing to spend money on a good quality employee.
Yep.
And once they have confidence that you are a man or a woman of character that they can trust, they are happy to pour their resources into you and build you in the company because you're valuable.
Yep.
But you can't expect to see that and find that in only a year.
Yeah.
So
true.
Yeah.
So how, as moms with young children or teens, really before 18, how do we prevent our kids from falling into this trap of excessive FOMO, not being willing to commit, expecting to make $120,000 at their first? How do we start?
Yep.
What does it look like?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, what I said before about being intentional to make those commitments and serving in the church of, hey, this is important. We committed to this. So we're going to, every Sunday after second service, we're going to go take out that trash. And no, that doesn't mean that if our friends are walking to the beach right after, that we're going to drop this commitment to go do that. Although that sounds really fun, or going to take a walk to get a smoothie with our friends, family, but we can meet up with them when we're done, or so on and so forth. But making sure that commitment that was made previously is held. We've had to have so many conversations with our kids who have made a commitment because something was offered to them beforehand, and then they got something offered.